there are only two types of Zionists that I'm familiar with. One type is those who are racist and proud of it, the honest Zionists. And they are unashamed of their racism. And now we are seeing that expressing itself in all its horridness, with the acting government, with these clearly genocidal expressions across the board, of the Israeli government. At the same time, there used to be that liberal Zionist type of discourse, is those who are Zionist but speak more of a human rights type of discourse. We are seeking peace and advocating for a two-state solution and so on. For example, Haaretz newspaper is a very good example of that. And if you will notice, Haaretz has changed its tune in the past month in support of the so-called war effort. Now, those who speak a liberal Zionist discourse, they are opposed to Netanyahu, they are opposed to the settlers in the West Bank, but they are doing all of that in order to protect what they see as their cherished Israeli democracy, that so-called democracy that comes at the expense of 14 million Palestinians. So they live in this facade of a democracy, in this idea of a democracy, and what Netanyahu is offering, what the honest Zionists are offering, is placing their view of how Israel should operate and how it should come across to the world as a democratic state, that is placing Israel in jeopardy. So they were opposing Netanyahu because Netanyahu was basically exposing the true face of Israel. And there were these massive demonstrations against Netanyahu.
Before October the 7th, they were demonstrating. Right, yeah.
Correct. Pro-democracy demonstrations, and so on, according to them. After October 7th, basically, they have all supported the assault on Gaza. So now we basically see far less of that difference. And I'll give you one example. The very same demonstrators against Netanyahu, there is a group called the White Coats, which are medical professionals, and they have been talking about how the Netanyahu regime is placing the Israeli health system at, great risk. And now the very same people have been issuing statements legitimizing Israeli bombing of hospitals in Gaza. Those who said that they will refuse military service because of some political, basically because they were political opposition to Netanyahu, and they were trying to apply pressure on Netanyahu by saying, oh, we will consider whether we will carry on with our reserve duty and so on. They're all on board now with going to Gaza and supporting other soldiers in the assault on Gaza. So what seemed like a rift between the so-called liberal Zionists and the honest Zionists, we do not see that anymore. And I said the Haaretz newspaper, which is kind of maybe the main symbol of that type of discourse that claims that there is some element of democracy in Israel, that there are these peace-loving Israelis. Basically, it is all drumming the war drums these days.
With the liberal Zionists, do you see them as a distraction from what the reality is, that they're almost gaslighting what's happening by saying we can make this work in a nice way with Palestinians, but the reality is there's no way it can work with Israel as it's been in the past, how it was set up. The whole basis of where we are is so far gone that you can't actually start saying we can make this work.
Exactly. So the liberal Zionists give some facade of normality and democracy and legitimacy to the Zionist state. And they would point the finger at what has been happening during the minor occupation of 1967 as the main issue, that minor occupation and the settlers there. While the actual reality is that Israel was founded from the grounds up as an apartheid state. on fascist ideals, it was fascist all along. The difference is that while being implicitly so, now it is explicitly so. While you could hear this discourse as if there is some form of legitimacy and democracy, now this discourse has been eroded, especially in the past months. Now, I see this type of discourse of the liberal Zionists as the greatest threat to Palestinians, and this is why I focus my energy a lot on tackling that, because the honest Zionists, we see what they stand for. They are clear about their genocidal, approach. They are clear about that. Yes, I mean, we are the masters of the land, and we will be the ones to dictate. While the others, they lend some sort of legitimacy. Now, I think so. So basically, the difference is whether the Zionist race state, which was founded as a race state in 1948, has any legitimacy whatsoever. Is there an iota of democracy there? Is there something that we can possibly, with some sort of a democratic process, arrive at a better situation in Israel-Palestine, or whether the entire system is an apartheid state that has to, there is a system of oppression and domination that has to be abolished. So the question is whether we talk about the crimes of 48 or whether we talk about the crimes of 67. And Gaza is actually, as mentioned, not only about related to the later occupation of 67, but it is related to the very fact that people have been expelled from their homes, has suffered the Nakba, and this ongoing Nakba is what is leading to what is happening right now in Gaza. And right now, people are, at the very least, under a threat of this continuation of ethnic cleansing. Those who are the majority of Gaza are refugees. Over 70% are refugees. Now they are again displaced. About 2 million, about 80% or so of the population in Gaza are now displaced, cannot go to their back to their homes, and we are in great fear, obviously, for their lives. We're in great fear of them being forced down south into Egypt. So obviously there is a need for an intervention here, and what basically that type of discourse that allowed, that talked about a possible solution that can be done by a mediated way, a political type of solution, rather than abolishing the system, I see that as what is allowing these ongoing crimes, the 7 decades of crimes against humanity, to carry on. Now, we no longer have that discourse that lends legitimacy to Israel, and now is more important than ever to point the finger at the very character. It's not the practices, it's not the policies of the state of Israel. It is the very character of the state of Israel that should be challenged. It is the very supremacist and currently genocidal character that should be challenged, must be challenged in order to save the people of Gaza and in order to basically abolish an entire system of oppression and domination.